And good afternoon. Welcome to the Digital Classicist seminar. This is the series that began in the summer of 2021 on digital world classics. This is a sort of continuation of that series over the course of this semester and next semester. We've just got a couple more seminars after this one in the early part of next year. Today's seminar is on the subject of the languages and cultures of ancient Italy, and I'll introduce a speaker in a moment. Just a quick note to those of you who are watching this live on YouTube, welcome. Delighted you could join us. If you'd like to ask questions or make comments or get involved in the discussion that we'll have a little bit at the end, there is a live chat feature that's usually to the right of the video or maybe below the video on some apps. And you can use that, and we'll see any comments you make very shortly after you make them, and we can pass those questions on to the speaker and you know engage in the discussion with us. You may also be watching us not live at some point in the future, at which case also welcome. We're really glad you're watching, but unfortunately we can't take questions from you. I think that's all I need to say by way of housekeeping. To introduce then today's speaker, Dr. Mariarosaria Zinzi from Florence is a postdoctoral researcher there and is going to talk to us about the languages and cultures of ancient Italy, historical linguistics and digital models. And I'll hand straight over to Mariarosaria to tell us a little bit more.
Well, thank you, Gabby. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the whole research team of the project, I would like to thank the organizer for accepting our presentation for today's seminar. And of course, questions, remarks, and comments are more than grateful at the end of the presentation. Well, let's start with a quick look at the sections of the presentation, of today's presentation. We'll address briefly the project, the languages involved in the project, the template which has been made up for such project. And then I'll show you an example of encoding. So we're talking about onomastics. Point 5, some issues we have been dealing with while using epidoc XML with the languages of ancient Italy. And then I will go on introducing the lexicon because, well, I will show you that we're not just creating a digital edition of texts of ancient Italy languages, but we aim at producing also a multilingual lexicon and then at experimenting CRM inf and CRM text ontologies on such texts. The project. The project is funded by the Italian Ministry of University and Research as a research project of relevant national interest. It involves a consortium of universities and academic institutes. That is to say, the University of Venice, Università Foscari di Venezia, University of Florence, Università degli Studi di Firenze, and the Institute for Computational Linguistics of Pisa. The team is made up by linguists, well, historical linguists and computational linguists. It has started in January 2020 and has an expected duration of at least 3 years. The project has a site. You can, well, we can do this, and then I show you briefly the site. Here it is. And the site already contains, for instance, information on the project and its goal, ancient Italy, well, what we talk about when we talk about when we talk about ancient Italy, and the digital models used by the team. What is the project about? The project aims at studying Cisalpine-Celtic, Venetic, Faliscan, and also texts and cultures by combining the traditional methods of epigraphy and historical linguistics with digital tools adapted to the highly fragmentary nature of the epigraphic documentation of such languages. Rechtssprachen often present specific problems concerning the reading of the inscriptions, the segmentation into words, their linguistic analysis, and their interpretation. The selection of the languages depends on the size and editorial state of their respective corpora of inscriptions, their belonging to different linguistic subgroups, and the competence of the researchers. The objective of the project is threefold. The first goal is producing a searchable digital corpus of the inscriptions of the selected languages, containing all the relevant contextual information together with a formal representation, leveraging the epigraphic encoding schema. Second goal is creating a multilingual computational lexicon linked with the corpus, and then experimenting a semantic codification by means of CRM text, the extension of CDOC CRM, the de facto standard ontology in the digital humanities for the representation of the texts. All resources will be fully interoperable and will be made available to the scientific community through an advanced query platform. The tools and resources produced and developed within the project will finally be made available through relevant European-wide research infrastructures, such as Clari and Raya, the two currently main infrastructures for the humanities, and immaterial cultural heritage. This will ensure both a long-term preservation of the resources produced, and a high valorization of this heritage. The corpus includes for each inscription, in addition of the text, contextual information, a commentary, a translation, searchable bibliographical references, and possibly photographs and drawings. I'm saying possibly because at the moment, due to the COVID pandemic, we haven't been able so far to do any autopsy to the inscriptions. The inscriptions are encoded according to the TEI EPIDOC standard in order to ensure the interoperability with other digital corpora and thus their availability for the whole research community and the general public. We are aware of the release process version 9.3 of the EPIDOC code and waiting for the new schema. Let's turn now to the languages which have been selected for the project. This is a map which shows what we talk about when we talk about ancient languages of ancient Italy. The majority of languages in ancient Italy are members of the Italic family of Indo-European, of which the two main branches are Latino-Faliscan and Sabellic. The inscriptions of the project span over a period going from the appearance of writing, that is to say the 8th century BC, and the linguistic Romanization, so between the 1st century BC and the 1st century AD. Let's take a look now at the languages. Celtic is an Indo-European language belonging to the Celtic subgroup, attested by approximately 400 inscriptions, which date from the 7th, 6th century BC to the 3rd century AD, and come from the Alpine valleys and the lake region of southern Switzerland and northern Italy, as well as from sites along the Po Valley. Most of the inscriptions are written in an epigraphic alphabet, usually called the Pontic Alphabet, which is derived from a northern Etruscan alphabet. The Celtic is a language known from about 350 mostly short inscriptions found in northeast Italy and dating from the middle of the 6th century BC to the 1st century BC. Most of the inscriptions are written in local varieties of an epigraphic alphabet, which are to be regarded as elaborations based on different Etruscan models. Polyscan is a language known from more than 300 inscriptions, found mostly in the Ager Faliscus, but some from the Ager Capenas, and dating from the 7th century BC to the 2nd century BC. Most inscriptions are written in the Faliscan alphabet, which is derived from a southern Etruscan alphabet. After 241, Capena, the Latin alphabet begins to be adopted. And then Oscan. Oscan is known from several hundred inscriptions found over much of southern Italy, dating from the 5th century BC to the 3rd century BC. The language is used in more domains than any other Sabellic language, with genres of text, including legal text and treaties, notably Bantia 1, I'm using the denomination from Crawford, official building inscriptions, Le Sacre, Teruentum 34, cursed tablets, dedications, funerary monuments, coin legends, and so on. Oscan inscriptions are alternatively in the so-called national alphabet, which is derived from an Etruscan alphabet, in the Greek alphabet adapted to the Oscan language, and in the Latin alphabet. The nature of the languages of ancient Italy as Restsprachen, as well as their specific epigraphic features, entail some difficulties which have been overcome thanks to the adaptability of XML together with the bottom-up approach of Epidoc. Let's take a quick look at the template. I'm not going through the whole template. I'm just showing you the three main sections and the main subsections. The section is TE header, which contains TE file desk, just a general description of the inscription, TE encoding desk, the description of the encoding, which refers to Epidoc, of course, and TE profile desk, the description of the inscription, that is to say, the material features of every inscription. The second part of the template is TE facsimile. The section contains pieces of information regarding images of the inscription, and TE text. The section contains pieces of information regarding the text, which means the edition of the text, commentary to the text, and then the bibliography. As for the bibliography, we are using Zotero, and we are every time generating a link to Zotero in the bibliography. Let me now show you how onomastics have been encoded. Names are marked by name with the attribute type. Such attribute having the following values: prenomen, gentilicium, pronomen, patronymic if formed by adding a suffix, metronymic if formed by adding a suffix, gamonymic also if formed by adding a suffix, theonym, and ethnonym. Name appears, of course, within the text. This is a sample of an encoded inscription. So now you see line begins, number 1, XML ID. OS10 refers to the number of the inscription within our database. And then let's go to name. Name, type, prenomen, XML ID referring to the encryption within the database, the line and the word, so OSC 10.1, word 1. XML lang, and here you see a peculiar description of that language. We'll see in a moment that the team project, the team of the project didn't want to focus on the language, but above all, when we are dealing with inscriptions, we are somehow obliged to show what the language is and what the script is. So this means Polyscan in Computational Alphabet. And then the attribute ref person 1. The attribute ref points to the index which identifies the person. Such index is created in XML ID of tape person belonging to the section onomastics, as we have seen. Onomastic formulas are put back together in a comment section, tape commentary section, tape this person type onomastics. And if patronymic or matronymic does not show up within the text, it is added in this section. Why shouldn't it appear within the text? Because it is not formed by adding a suffix, but it is a nominal phrase. This is a case. So we have Taylor's person, type onomastics, person XML ID, person 1, XML lang, Polyscan National Alphabet, and then the personal name, which is reconstructed here. So we have the prenomen, gentilicium, and then the matronymic. But within the matronymic, we need to add at name, then the nominal phrase, and then closing. The encoding strategies of the text written in the selected languages has sometimes entailed some difficulties. By instance, we needed to specify not only the language, but also the script of those contexts. And neither Tay nor Epic encode them in a way suitable for Italic languages. Tay script desk, in fact, contains a description of the scripts used in a manuscript or other object. And Within language usage in talk, the script is described as connected to a language. So what we wanted to be more specific than that. And then we decided to describe the writing systems and to describe every language, not only by the language, but also by the coupled language script. So we created a web page where the specific alphabet is described, such that the web page is on the site, and you can see here link. This is appendix. It's appendix 5. It's appendix 5 and of the guidelines. So for every language, we have the language, then alphabet, the page of the specific alphabet, then the value in XML lang, and the description. So every time you see OSC ETL4, OSC ET, it is OSCAN in national alphabet. That is to say, OSCAN Etruscan alphabet. The same goes for OSC Greek, for OSC, OSCAN in Greek alphabet, OSCAN Greek alphabet, and the same for OSCAN in Latin alphabet, OSCAN Latin alphabet. So in TayScript node is contained by TayScript desk, writing system, subtype alphabet, and then the attribute ref, which refers to the link to the web page, OSCAN National Alphabet. Tay profile desk, Tay lang usage, and then the language, which is identified either by the ISO code of the language and by the Unicode ISO code. So the language of the inscription is identified either by the ISO code language script and by the description of the script as listed in Appendix 5. Moreover, we have the attribute ANA, which refers to the link of the ISO codes used to construct the first part of the language identifier, the part preceding the X. This one, I lost it. Sorry. Okay. Oh, this one. The language is also specified within the encoding of the text in order to retrieve XML lang. As I already said, the digital edition of the inscriptions is only one of the objectives of the project. The second goal of the project is creating a multilingual lexicon. What are the issues connected to such objective? Considering the nature of the selected languages, a tailor-made lexicon must be created. It must take into account the diachronic dimension inscriptions span over some 100 years and the peculiarities of epigraphic stimulus. This means that the description of every lemma must be morphological more than semantic, because we cannot think of a standard lexicon showing unusual lemmatization. It is not possible to list nouns and verbs according to the standard lemmatization, that is, choosing the nominative singular or the first person singular or the present indicative. Moreover, there is another problem connected to ancient Italy languages. That is, in some cases, the segmentation of the words is not certain. Keeping in mind such peculiarities, the Institute of Computational Linguistics in Pisa is working on a lexicon using the semantic web technologies. What I'm showing you is a very work in progress web editor. The Institute of Computational Linguistics is using Lexo, a collaborative web editor used for the creation and management of multilingual lexical and terminological resources as linked data resources. The web editor has already been used for creating Saussurean terminology lexicon some years ago. The editor makes use of semantic web technologies which enrich web data with authentic information in order to make them machine readable, and the linked data publishing paradigm in order to ensure that lexical resources can be more easily shared and reused by the scientific community. The computational, well, I'll show you the lexicon. There it is. Let's choose a word. If it doesn't work, we're going to, oh, well, there it is. The computational lexicon will contain for each lemma inherent grammatical information such as part of speech, stem, stem type, prefix, suffix, composition time, compound members, gender, pronoun and pronouns, person for personal pronouns. So you see the lemma, part of speech, bibliography. If there's any, and etymology. Morphology, so number, case, gender, where it is attested, so the inscription as it appears in within the database, and then bibliography. Moreover, it is intended to contain possible semantic relationship with other lemmata and a translation when an interpretation of the word is possible. This is the new layout of the lexicon, which Valeria Cuocchi, Dr. Valeria Cuocchi allowed me to show you. So you see the lemmas on the left, the information I listed in the middle, and it should contain a photograph or a drawing of the inscription, the edition, interpretive and diplomatic edition, and then the translation where it is possible. Let's go now to the last part of the presentation and then to the third objective of the project. That is, we will test the use of CRM-Inf and CRM-Text ontologies, which are extensions of CDOC CRM. We're going to experiment semantic codification by means of such instruments, extensions of CDOC CRM, the de facto standard ontology in the digital humanities, for the representation of the texts and their scientific interpretation in a semantic format, and thus facilitate the integration and exchange of heterogeneous information in the field of cultural heritage. I quote from Felicetti Murano 2020, "Because of their non-mechanized origin, ancient texts are unique and unrepeatable entities. In addition, along with their support, they form an inextricably linked, unique object of study. Thus, from a conceptual point of view, whether it is painted, written in ink or engraved, a text preserves its physical nature, which is a feature deriving its existence from its strict dependence on the support on which it is located. Texts are a material phenomenon framed in time and space. And yes, we already we already have such information within the epidoc schema. But what we can do using CRM text and CRM inf ontologies is define metadata that can describe the structure of the text, its history, and the events and people who determined its existence and life. Specifically, CRM text and CRM inf aim to identify and define in a clear and unambiguous way the main entities and properties for describing an ancient handwritten text and for encoding arguments and inferences. CRM text aims to describe the various nuances of a text from the physical aspect, a set of features created with particular techniques, materials, and tools, to the semantic and conceptual aspects, whereby it bears a message that by means of the same features is transmitted and disseminated through time and space. As you can see, I quote here reading and transcription activities in CRM text, which you can find in the above mentioned article by Felicetti and Murano. So in green, you see the classes elaborated within CRM text. In blue, the CDOC CRM classes. And TXP is for the properties of CRM text classes. So we go from the physical level to the conceptual one. So by instance, TX1 is the written text, which is a subclass of E25 man-made feature. And then the reading is the written text segment is read by, and then we go to class reading. Such a model has been applied by Felicetti and Murano to the inscription on the south side of the Arch of Constantine. So we go from the physical, you see, to the conceptual level, because the inscription is not only an object, but it also contains glyphs, which is the actual realization of graphemes, which are the smallest part, which are the smallest part of the writing system. As you can see, we go writing field, text segment, and graphemes, but we also find graphemes in the conceptual levels, because actually the text has been read, has been interpreted by someone who made an edition of it. Why it is important to work with epidoc XML and CRM text. The two can be used in synergy to create richer metadata and build more structured and complete information from both a descriptive and semantic point of view, thus fostering interoperability of textual information in typical integrated scenarios of the semantic web, So not only a digital edition of the text, but also a semantic description of the same text in order to foster, as I already said, the interoperability of within the scenarios of the semantic web. I thank you for your attention. I think I'm not over the 40 minutes, so I'm glad. And I'm, well, as I said at the very beginning, questions, remarks, and comments are more than welcome. Well, thank you.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Mariarosaria. That was a really useful overview of the project and some very interesting points in there as well. So yes, I'm seeing virtual applause from the group.
Thank you.
Cool. I'm sure we'll have some questions from within the group, within the call as well. But I just want to remind those people watching on YouTube live that you can post questions or comments or any kind of discussion in the live chat feature as well. So we can also go back to any of the slides, or if anyone wants to look at any of the web resources that we saw at some point as well. I'll bring us up a little bit larger on the screen, but the slides are still there. I can pull them back up if we need them. Does anybody want to start with some questions? I've got a couple of very technical and boring questions, so I'd rather someone else started.
I don't know if I have a question. It might be a bit technical and boring as well. Thank you so much, Mariarosaria. That was, I've heard a little bit about the project before, but from a different point of view. So it was really brilliant to hear this side of it. I wanted to just go back to something you said about the markup of the onomastics, because you said something that I took to mean one thing, but then the example you showed seemed to be something slightly different to what I was expecting. So you said that you were marking patronymics, matronymics, and gamonymics as such when they were formed using a suffix. I took that to mean that if you had a name, for example, an Oscan sort of name of the style Lucas Stati, son of Lucas, then that last one would be marked as a praenomen, as a genitive praenomen, not as a patronymic, because it's not formed using a patronymic suffix, it's formed just as a genitive. And if you had a Etruscan or Venetic style thing where you actually had a specific suffix that forms a patronymic to make a patronymic adjective, then that would be marked as a patronymic. But in your markup, it looked like actually the just genitive praenomen was marked as a patronymic. So I wondered if you could just clarify how you were doing that, because I think both ways are completely helpful and valid, but I'm not sure if I saw what if I was understanding you correctly there.
Okay. May I go? Okay. So well, the encoding of the patronymic or matronymic when they are formed by adding a suffix is visible here. So within the text. So when the patronymic and the matronymic are formed that way, you can see them here. So we are within the text. While here is the list person, and you you can retrieve information from the text, or in case patronymic and matronymic are not formed by adding a suffix, but they are formed using genitive, you add such information. You see here, you need to add Tayat name, because of course it's not only a name, but it's two, and you have such information here. I'm not sure if I'm clear enough.
Yes, I just on the previous example where on the I think I understand, just on the previous example where it is just a genitive on its own, but it is still marked patronymic. So I wasn't sure if you were differentiating between genitives on their own. Sorry, on the male name that you had on the previous slide.
Are you talking about this slide or which one?
Sorry, I don't know if I'm seeing the same slides as you. The one with the colorful markup, not just the black and white.
Okay, so this one.
It hasn't updated yet on our screen.
Yeah, we'll wait for it.
Sorry.
Go ahead and say what you were going to say.
So the patronymic is Lu case, right? So just a genitive. So I wondered if you were marking that as a praenomen in the genitive, or if you were just marking that as a patronymic, because but I think
it is marked as a patronymic. Yeah. You're talking about this one, the slide. Yes, I'm seeing now. Yeah.
Okay, well, cool. So if you've got the genitive just on its own, that is also marked as a patronymic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's in case it is a nominal phrase, and you have to mark up like this.
Yeah. Cool. I get. Yeah. So this one is 2 words.
Okay.
I get that one. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I was wondering a bit about the same example, actually. This one here in your list person.
Okay.
Why do you nest add name inside name? Why not just put name type add name type equals patronymic, matronymic in this case? So I told you this was very technical.
Well, I think it's just because it's a noun phrase and not just a word.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no. So I see why you're calling it add name, but I'm not sure why you need to have the name outside the add name, because surely add name is enough. It's a subset of name already. We know it's a name if it's an add name. It's a type of name.
I think it's either because you actually don't have it within the text, and because you have to add a word.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. And I guess it's easier for consistency as well to always look for type matronymic on name, regardless of whether it's on a name or on a phrase. Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough. Cool. Thank you. We have one question in the chat so far. Here, David Stifter has asked, have you considered importing data and metadata from existing lexicons, such as the Lexicon Ponticum?
We're not considering that data. We're really working with the not yet. We're working with the canonical editions of the text, which is Crawford and Ricks, but the team knows of many projects. Well, a few days ago, I knew about the complete morphological and syntactical annotated corpus by Ruben Pitts, and I think that the main object of the project was to go back to the edition of the text and to create a digital edition of the text, but also see whether such editions could be confirmed or not. So it is more kind of a traditional philological work. So I don't think we're not taking into account the, for example, the Pontic lexicon. No.
I have just a much more general question, if that's okay. you mentioned about the Zotero bibliography. Is that only going to be made available right at the end of the project, or is that open?
No. You can already. It's already open. It's already searchable. You see, you can find. Oh well, I will show you. Well, you can find within the resources section of the site the bibliography, and it takes you to the Zotero bibliography. And there it is. Just a few seconds. Okay.
That's fantastic.
And you
Thank
can find.
so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I had a question about the CRM text, the ontology that you mentioned. I don't know to what extent you were involved in the modeling of the data, but how was like your experience using it? To what extent do you find it was flexible enough for you to record the aspects you wanted to record, or if you noticed in some aspects the classes that you were looking for were missing, and you may have considered creating them yourselves? So what was your experience?
Well, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, that was it. That was my question.
Okay. Well, I was not involved in creating the CRM text model. The authors are Achille Felicetti.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
Not in creating the model, but in using it for your own purpose
for
your
okay.
project. Yeah.
It's a phase of the project we are not yet dealing with, so I cannot really answer your question. But what I can say is that trying and use the CRM text model can in some way enhance the information we have about the inscription. So it's not only the material information and information about the edition, but it's in what context has it been produced, or further information that could complete the what we know, the idea we have of the inscription. That's it. But I haven't used it yet, so I'm not really good at saying anything. I'm sorry.
But have you started modeling the data with it, or not yet? It's
no, not yet. No.
Plans for the future. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Looking forward to hearing how that goes.
Okay.
In the following seminar.
Thank you.
So if there are no more questions in the chat, which I don't see any yet, but encouragement to anybody else still watching, please do send you a question. I will ask a slightly more sort of not so much technical as.
I'm sorry, I cannot really hear you. There's like a buzz.
Yeah,
I think if we all mute so that Gabby.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep. No. So I was just going to ask, not specifically a technical question, but it was provoked by your example of how you were combining the encoding of a language and script, which is something that a lot of people have to think about and that many different Epidoc projects have had similar issues of trying to deal with how you encode language X, which might be written in 3 different scripts, and then another language which might be written in some of the same scripts, but also some different scripts that might be interspersed in the same in the same text, and so forth. And I was not quite sure, and this is probably not something for us to discuss now in this medium, but I wasn't quite sure why your examples of script codes, you used Oscan and then as the language code, and then you added -Grec as the script code, which to me that means Oscan written in the Greek script. But then you added X for a user-defined code and Oscgr for Oscan Greek, which seemed to me to be redundant. That seemed to be saying the same thing as the official language code, Oscgrec was already saying. But sort of, I don't necessarily want to argue about whether that's the correct encoding or not, so much as to sort of ask a sort of bigger question about just to say, I think it would be extremely valuable to have some of these conversations with the Epidoc community. I think I'd love to have questions from you, or just reports on, these are the decisions we've made, these are the ways in which existing Epidoc didn't cater for us, and this is how we resolved them, with the Epidoc community, with the Epidoc markup list, or in other venues, because as I say, many other projects in other languages, including some extremely complex documents that are written across 3 different languages and multiple different scripts, have had exactly these issues, and it has in enriching Epidoc to address those issues, we've improved Epidoc, and I think working with you would improve Epidoc further.
Okay.
My goal would be that you shouldn't need to customize Epidoc locally. You should force Epidoc to customize globally to cater for you. That should be how that works. But,
yeah, that's a very good point. I know that the value of XML lang is a little bit redundant. Is not that elegant, but it's just because it was we needed to specify that the language goes with the script, so we needed to distinguish the one from the other. That's why I know it's not very elegant, and yes, I totally agree. A discussion within the markup list or the whole Epidoc community would be great value. Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm saying it would be a value to us. I hope it would also be a value to you, but it would definitely be.
Yep, sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So are you saying, and I'm sure this is the case for some language script combinations, in particular with the italic scripts, the national scripts, which are not very well catered for by ISO and by Unicode. But are you saying that therefore that Oscan written in Greek script is in a sense has to be considered a different language from Oscan written in another script?
Well, it's just that it, from an epigraphical point of view, and for the whole knowledge of the inscription, it is important to underline what script is used. So it is not a very different language, but it is an information we need to know. That's what we need to underline. So it is not really a different language, but well, I just think it's an information. It's an important information to show to the user of the edition, to for who's making the edition. That's why it's part of the information that complete the profile of the inscription.
Yeah, and presumably it does have a linguistic impact on some of your tools, some parts of your project, like the lexicon, like how you lemmatize or not lemmatize, but how you normalize, how you even segment will maybe differ depending on what script is in there. So yeah, I see that. Thank
I think that's a super interesting question and issue, which I also found in my PhD when we were kind of modeling, if you remember, legends of coins in southern Spain that were written. So some of them, we had the name of the city in the Iberian language that was transcribed in Latin, but so to what extent the name in Latin was still an Iberian name, or they were conscious that they were written an Iberian name in Latin. So yeah, as Mariarosaria said, is really important to kind of capture that information and how you capture that in the data model, and how you can not only model that information but also query it and ask a question to the data set that you will then get that sort of information. So that I think is really interesting. And also, as Gabby said, if you can document not only the issues that you are encountering, but also how you, the decisions you make on how you solve them, that's, I think, is really important and interesting, and an added value. Yeah. For EpiDoc and also semantic modeling for languages.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree almost from the other way around, that when Gabby says, oh, well, is it, are you considering it almost as a different language? To me, the interesting thing that you're getting down to the fine grain of is it's in the Greek alphabet, but it's in an Oscan version of the Greek alphabet, right? So it's in a different, it's a modified script. It's a very lightly modified script, but it is a modified script. So by what you've done, I think it makes clear, although perhaps with a little redundancy, that this is not just Oscan that has been written in Greek characters. It is in the so-called Osco-Greek script, I guess, which is not a great term for it either. The terminology is all not great. So I think from the other way around, looking at it as like a particular script, I think there's a need to distinguish that too, which I think you have done.
Yeah, well, if Gabby can show you the slide I'm looking at, which is the Appendix 5 of the guidelines of the project. The last column is description, and of course you see Oscan national alphabet, which is Oscan Etruscan alphabet, but Oscan in Greek alphabet, it has Oscan Greek alphabet, not the Greek alphabet we know, but a Greek alphabet adapted to Oscan, and that's the reason why it's important to note it, to insert such information within the edition.
Yeah, no, I understand now. Thank you. Yeah, that's and so they would be different from Oscan written in a purely Greek alphabet, and it would be different again from Oscan words or names more likely being used in a Greek inscription by Greek speakers. Yeah, I mean those would be several different kinds of ways in which you find Oscan written in the Greek alphabet. And what you're doing is distinguishing between several of those, which, yeah, no, I take back everything I said about it being redundant. I think you're right in
well, I think that there could be a more elegant way of solving the issue. Yeah, that's the solution we found.
Well, this is a working solution towards that maybe more elegant version. We need to go step by step. So if this is working for you, then
it is. Yeah,
exactly. So that's the sort of thing. I think, like, see what works in this project and then explore other ways that may be better in the future. But if this is working now.
Yeah, I think the only more elegant solution would be to ask ISO or IANA to add multiple different subsets of the Greek alphabet to their script codes, so that they have a script code for not only for Etruscan but also for Oscan Etruscan, not only for Greek but also for Oscan Greek, not only so they have those those things. So you would no longer have to have your user specified code because they would be the official codes. But until they exist, this is the only thing you can do.
Yeah, that would be a good way of solving the problem, trying to solve it. Yeah.
And they do, in fact. I mean, the if you look at the documentation for how to express user-defined codes of the kind you've done, the documentation does say when you create a user-defined code, please tell us so that we can consider adding a real code for it. You know, please make a recommendation for this to be added as a formal code. That's not to say that they will accept everything, but that that they want people to recommend these codes. I think that is.
Okay.
That is useful.
Thank you. Okay.
Great. Does anyone have a final question or comment to make before we finish?
Just that it was great, really, really interesting, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing how it develops, and really looking forward to seeing all your solutions to, not always the most elegant solution, but it's not always the most elegant data. That's what I think is the problem here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your solutions to it.
We have just had a last-minute question from the audience. If you like, Ruben Pitts has asked, how does the lexicon deal with different inflected forms of the same word? Are they linked to one another?
Yeah, they are linked. Yeah. This is one of the other problems we have to face with such fragmentary languages, because actually we can find different forms of the same, to say, verb, but not the whole conjugation. So the different forms are listed and they are connected to one another. Yeah. It is not possible to lemmatize words in the standard way, because we either don't have or cannot reconstruct, by instance, the first person singular present indicative of a verb, which would be insane for such for inscriptions like that. So forms are listed, and when they are connected to one another, they are linked within the lexicon interface. Yeah.
A question entirely from ignorance: are the inflected forms of a word in most of these italic languages, like Oscan or whatever, would they tend to group together in an alphabetized lexicon, like the example here of asai and asas, or are some inflected forms formed by prefix or augmentation or infix or something, which would cause them to appear in completely different parts of the lexicon, thus making it harder?
I'm not sure that I'm not sure this part. I would say that they're grouped, but I cannot recall at the moment.
I would agree. I would think.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they would tend to group together. The problem is sometimes the orthography, so there can be something that's spelt either with an I in one alphabet or with an EI in another alphabet, and then you get them split, and that's annoying, obviously. But that's an orthographic thing more than the inflection, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, good, thank you. Formally again, thank you very much, Mariarosaria. We'd have a room full of applause if we were doing this in a seminar room, so let's do that. It was great to have you here for this seminar. Thank you. I'm glad we were able to extend this seminar over the course of the whole year. We have 2 more seminars in this sort of extended pseudo series The next two seminars are now actually in March and May, respectively. We have one on the on Peace, the portal on Jewish funerary culture, on the 18th of March, and one on digital reconstruction of the Akhenaten torso in the Brooklyn Museum on the 27th of May. So the program for that for the rest of this season is here at the bottom of the screen. It's also linked in the abstract beneath the video. If you want a version that you can actually click on, and please do come along for those. And there will be a new series of the Digital Classicist seminar starting in summer 2022, which will be starting to collect proposals for probably in the new year. So thank you all very much again, and thank you especially Mariarosaria.
Thank you. Thank you.